Hello and welcome to another Common Sense Linux video. In this video, I'll be offering some recommendations for saving the files in Windows that you want to keep in preparation for the installation of Linux. One thing to keep in mind is that some files created by proprietary Windows programs, Quicken and TurboTax come to mind, cannot be read in their native formats by Linux programs. Microsoft Office files can generally be opened by open source programs like LibreOffice, with only minor adjustments being necessary after opening. However, you're not going to get TurboTax files in a native state to open with any accuracy by open source programs. Some of these programs offer the ability to convert the files they create into another format, such as PDF, XLS, or doc, which can be opened in Linux with very little trouble. If that is an option in the proprietary programs, try to convert anything you think you might need to PDF or some of the other formats that are generally accessible in Linux. Photoshop files should be accessible with programs like the GIMP. You can test the interoperability of opening files on your Windows disk using the live USB you created earlier. Otherwise, you'll need some form of Windows to open them. Perhaps you've already discovered that Linux can open and display many files that reside on the Windows drive, while Windows will not even recognize a Linux drive. If you haven't noticed this, the following video shows the opening of files residing on the Windows drive using LMDE. I'll open the file manager in the LMDE Live USB. Of course, this is using the LMDE Live USB, but with Debian and Zorin Live USBs, the procedure is pretty much the same. Find the OS or Windows, double-click on that listing, and the Windows drive will open. I've navigated to my documents, and I have some samples here. LibreOffice, as you will notice when you right-click, is the default program to open this file, a spreadsheet. To open this file, once again, LibreOffice, and once again, a spreadsheet. This is a PDF which opens with Document Viewer, and as you can see, this is a PDF document that you can fill in the blanks on, and you're doing it on Linux. So, Document Viewer is able to open PDF files, even PDF files that have blanks that need to be or can be filled in. Now, if you're asked if you want to save something that you've messed with, don't do it. Never save something back to the Windows drive from Linux. Here's another document that LibreOffice will open. This is a doc file. And this is a docx file, the more modern Word format. As you can see, these documents look essentially the same as they would look if you were opening them with Microsoft Word. You may run into special formatting cases where you have to do some rearranging, but it should not be drastic. A Photoshop file can be opened with the new image manipulation program also known as the GIMP. You'll get some warnings from GIMP that this is not in its native state format, but as you can see, you can still open the file. Just cancel the warnings or say OK or whatever. And GIMP is supposed to be a fairly close replacement for Photoshop. You can do a lot of things with it. Never used Photoshop myself, so I can't really speak to it. I'm sure that GIMP is not as extensive as Photoshop. It's also less expensive. When you get through inspecting your Windows drive, just push that little arrowhead and it will unmount the partition. As I say, this is pretty much the same thing that you would do on Debian or Zorin. You access the Windows drive in Q4OS a little bit differently. Open Conqueror, the file manager. Click on Folders, then down where it says on the left Storage, drop that down and you see OS. You click on that, it'll take you to the Windows drive. Navigate to whatever you're wanting to look at, in this case Documents and Samples, and then you will continue just exactly like in the previous video. However, remember that these programs have to be installed on the live USB for you to be able to open them. Pretty hard to open a file if you don't have the program to open it. Also, please remember that if you make any adjustments to these files while they are open on the Linux Live USB, do not save them back to the Windows drive. This could cause corruption of the files, and you may not be able to open them again when you try to access them after you restart Windows. Just close them if you've made adjustments, and ignore or cancel any prompt as to whether or not to save them. There are several options for keeping the files you're going to overwrite on your internal storage device. There's the cloud option, which you may already be using a cloud service. There's the USB option, using either a flash drive large enough to hold whatever you are saving, or an external USB drive. Also, if you still have the ability, you can use DVDs to store the information. All you have to do is copy the files you want to keep to some storage device. Best practices dictate that however you decide to store your important files, be backed up in at least 2 places. That way, if one method fails for whatever reason, you'll always have another copy. I don't care what the companies say. I don't consider cloud storage to be secure. Whatever you put there is not directly under your control and is just one subpoena away from being exposed to someone else. If that doesn't worry you, there's always the possibility of the drive your information is stored on at the server farm becoming corrupt or just out and out dying. You may not be able to access it for various reasons. You've lost passwords, you don't have internet, or whatever. However, if that's the way you decide to go, so be it. Just be sure that whatever plan you have for the cloud storage has enough space for what you want to store, and that you secure it the best that you possibly can. If you have a USB flash drive or several that has enough space to store whatever you are keeping, transfer the files to it, label it, and store it away. Alternatively, you can get one of the external USB drives, some of them hold 1 terabyte or more, and transfer your files to it. Keep in mind, though, that due to the nature of USB flash drives, they will fail at some time in the future. I've never seen what I would consider to be accurate information on when that might happen. I don't know if they're still available, but some of the external USB drives used to come with a platter disk inside an actual hard drive. And aside from using that disk as a hammer or dropping it repeatedly, I would consider those to be more durable. If you're lucky enough to have a DVD player recorder on your computer, you may be able to use DVDs as your storage media. I've heard rumors that internal and external DVD drives are slowly falling out of favor and out of manufacture. But if you have the availability of a drive and the availability of the disks themselves, this may be a storage option. Just be sure to label your disks and store them securely. Whatever method or methods you choose, be sure that you have considered the future availability of those methods. In any case, I would recommend that you back up your Windows files just in case, especially if you are doing any installing, which will be the subject of the next video. That's all for now. There are videos covering the installation of each of the 4 distros we looked at previously available in this series. Thanks for watching.